After 2 weeks of time off for counting blessings and giving all the thanks, the run to the end of the regular season returns in an anticipated matchup with one of the season's most challenging tracks, where each race can count as a blessing in disguise to those aiming at the title. Live from the virtual Atlanta Motor Speedway in Hampton, Georgia, we bring you coverage of the 12th race of the Season 6 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series and our coverage live on the KBueno Racing Network. Always glad to have you on the Wednesday night. We're up atop the broadcast booth here at Atlanta Motor Speedway alongside Francisco Bacchiao, who will be joining in just a couple of moments. My name is Kenneth Bueno. Now, it's been quite a while since we were racing here in the 4Wide Series. We had a 2-week break for Thanksgiving. Let the drivers take some time off. Finally, we're back in a very fun way. Tonight is going to be all about answering a lot of the questions about the iRacing build that just came out earlier this morning, and of course trying to figure out who's got the momentum going into the regular season finale as we wind down this season, head over to the start of the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team playoffs. But before we get into everything here tonight, we've got all the tracks, we've got of course the drivers, we've got a lot of storylines to dish you out before we get to tonight's green flag. Let's take a look at what happened, get a refresher as to exactly what went down in the Irish Hills of Brooklyn, Michigan. Started off with Ethan Fonseca Moreno, the BBR standout on the starting grid with Trevor Haley, row number 1, but Eric Schaefer would soon climb up the running order. He would surge to second here at lap number 12. Quick getaway, then our early caution at lap 17. Lance Hill, Curtis Kelly getting involved in a pretty substantial incident on the front straightaway, and then a bigger one. Tyler Murray getting turned by Jacob Locklear on the back straightaway. Lawson Peel, who's been second in points and tussling with Eric Schaefer for the points lead, got into that incident. He would not be able to recover quite quickly. Then we had a great battle building up through lap 49. Eric Schaefer and Moreno, that would be the constant throughout the entire race, would not let each other go, even on the entry to pit road. First round of green flag stops for both of them, almost getting into each other, led Patrick Thompson to stay out, and after multiple green flag stops, Patrick Thompson would stay out, getting close to his first career win. Then a caution came out with 2 to go. 49 of Jason Hastings, 9 of Brandon Gillis going hard into the wall and creating the caution near the end of the race. Then here's the race off of pit road. Trevor Haley on a 2-tire stop. Gutsy call got him to the front, but it would not last him long. 1 restart, then became 2. Final attempt at a green-white checker to end the race. Trevor Haley still up front. Moreno getting his way to second on the outside. And then as they chased for turns 3 and 4, here comes Schaefer out of nowhere. Dive to the inside. They were 3 wide for the race lead. Haley on the older set of 2 tires could not hang on to it. It was Moreno and Schaefer, their show, all the way to the curtain call. Then in 3 and 4 on the final lap, Eric Schaefer diving to the inside of Moreno, sliding up. Jaden Porter doing a nice job of getting into third before it was all said and done. And in the chase to the start-finish line, Eric Schaefer, the race winner for the first time this season. And interestingly enough, it has been his season all throughout the last couple of months. The last thing he needed to check off, though, was the race victory. He becomes the 7th different winner here in Season 6 of the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series. Now, just a couple of minutes before we get started here from Atlanta Motor Speedway, we will take a short break, but on the other side, we'll be back with more pre-race coverage prior to the green flag of tonight's race here from Hampton, Georgia.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
abreast, you got them 4 abreast. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaws. Dirt Racing will be available September 27th. Pre-order your copy today.
Well, if there's anyone that's been in style over this season of the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series, it has been Eric Schaefer. We'll bring in our other commentator tonight, Francisco Bacchiao. And Francisco, there's a lot to be said about what Eric Schaefer has put up this season. He wanted this Xfinity Series car for the year. He got it. He's made the most of it. And finally, after so many races where it looked like he would get a race win, he got one at Michigan, taking it right into Atlanta. So much momentum. All right, well, Francisco will join him in just a couple of moments, but Eric Schaefer certainly has been on fire. Looked pretty good in the 2-hour practice session they hosted before this race is going to get started. So there's a lot to be said about what car number 3 can do in his chase for the championship. And speaking of the championship, point standings look like this. Eric Schaefer, no surprise, at the top of the board, but he leads by a decent margin over his teammate Lawson Peel. Both of them were very close over the course of the season. Very nitpicky between those two, depending on the race, week in and week out. But Schaefer, ever since the last couple of weeks, has been able to pull away substantially, and especially that race win at Michigan with Lawson Peel's misfortune gives Schaefer a very considerable margin back to his teammate and former champion of the series. Ethan Fonseca Moreno still sits inside the top 3, but what you see is the big change around 4th on back. Luke Canup has dropped back to P6 in the standings. Brandon Banks, Trevor Haley being able to step up in their own ways. You look all the way through the top 10. Jaden Porter, who was at once somewhat at risk of being outside or inside the top 14 for the playoffs, should we get to season's end, he's now inside the top 10 by a margin of 20 points over the cut line. That cut line now sits at 2. Ryan Pandiccio holding the last spot for Team Skybox. AJ Green, who had a topsy-turvy race 2 weeks ago at Michigan, going to be inside the top 15 and still rather close with the likes of Michael Newbraw, Craig Lownslager, Tony Kivet, even a bit of Adam Alshire picked up the win at Daytona earlier this season. So drivers are heading for the starting grid. We'll get them to you, and we'll give you all the drivers that will line up for tonight's return race for the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series here from Atlanta, Georgia. It will be the 45, Luke Canup, rookie driver for KBueno Racing with the pole, 31.603. He'll be joined by the Jacksonville, Florida native of Colin Forrester on his outside, bringing us to the green in row number 1. AJ Green, the Stocks Motorsports teammate of Forrester, lines up inside row number 2 in top 3 position. Jesse Preece, great qualifying effort for the DBR Chevrolet. He'll start tonight inside position number 4. Kyle Benson starts inside the top 5, defending champ Jaden Porter rolls from the 6th position on the outside of row 3, followed by a rookie driver making his first start tonight, Brandon Hawken out of Team Skybox will start 7th. Daniel Mitchell returns after a little absence. He rejoins the series in this race starting from 8th. Tony Kivet is 9th, and rookie driver Trevor Haley has made a lot of headlines so far this season, including the last race at Michigan. He rounds out the top 10 tonight, Francisco.
Lance Hill will be rolling off from the 11th position in that number 1 machine, with Tristan Bailey coming back once again for that 12th position. Ethan Fonseca Moreno will be starting down in the 13th position alongside Brandon Banks in the 14th spot. Moving down to 15th, you have Kevin D'Elia for Skybox alongside Craig Lownslager, who has some work to do from the 16th position. Tyler Murray, our league owner, will be starting off in 17th, and Eric Schaefer, your points leader, will be in the 18th position. Looking down, Lawson Field, the second driver in the standings, will be rolling off in 19th. So a lot of big names down the order. Adam Alshire will be alongside him in the 20th spot.
21st will go to the 10 of Wyatt Brackett, rolling off inside row number 11. Michael Newbraw will be on his outside, targeting P22. Ryan Pandiccio, mentioned him as the last driver currently in from point standings in the top 14. He is 23rd when we get the green tonight. Curtis Kelly faced a crash in the last race at Michigan International Speedway. He'll try and rebound this week from position 24. TJ Bursk, we know how fast he is, especially at these 1.5 mile tracks. He's got a lot of work cut out for him though from 25th. Brandon Gillis will roll off from 26th position. Austin Reedy, first driver not to take a qualifying time in 27th. Patrick Thompson, who was oh so close to his first career win at Michigan, got it robbed away from him. He is 28th on row number 14. Scott Healy is 29th, and Stan Carnathan for MTC Esports rounds out the top 30.
Brady Cox will be rolling off from the 31st position with Jeff No, rookie driver, in the 32nd position. Cody Kinsey will be in 33rd with CJ Munier alongside him in the 34th position. Craig Parks will be rolling off from 35th with Christopher Bishop in the 36th position. And that rounds out your 36 car field here from Atlanta, Georgia, Kenneth. And it's good to be back after the Thanksgiving break.
And it's been a lot of fun. I mean, we had all of the food, we gave our thanks, we said our blessings, and now it's time to, I guess, run all those carbs off right on the racetrack. As we had a lot of time off and a lot of things to talk about in terms of development in the sim. The new iRacing build that just came out this morning that was delayed from yesterday, certainly going to play a big role into the way we run this race tonight, Francisco. A lot to be said with the developers at iRacing on Tuesday, scheduled to put out the 2024 Season 1 build, where in that came the new oval refresh and phase number 1, which will allow for potentially more multi-groove racing and allow for more of a dynamic track over tonight's event. And we look at the weather. It is, of course, hot in Atlanta for a reason. 129 degrees on the track temp, Francisco. What do the drivers have to keep in mind tonight as they face this new oval refresh phase 1 in the first race back?
Tires will matter today, Kenneth. They will extremely with this surface and with how hot the surface is going to be. Tire wear is going to be an extremely big point in today's race. There's going to be a lot of wear, a lot of slipping and sliding. And you mentioned it with the new updates that the sim has. You could possibly look to move around. That outside lane could become more of an option. I'm not sure what it'll do to the tire wear because that's still a question mark. We don't know exactly what the developers did with that. So a lot of things that we don't truly know that these guys are going to figure out in this race today, Kenneth. But one thing we do know with these hot temperatures, guys are going to have to treat their cars very carefully. Long run speed is going to be extremely important. And here in the South, in a summer afternoon, Kenneth, in sim, it's going to be a wild one for us to watch.
And you're also looking at drivers at the front who are pretty much newcomers to running up here and might position themselves on the right way for the end of this race. Our last two races here at Atlanta Motor Speedway have featured two different winners. One of them, Lawson Peel, back in Season 4. Then in Season 5, give it to the 96 of Austin Reedy, who rolls in the 34 car this season. Neither of them are here near the front. They've got a lot of work to do from pretty far down in the grid. Reedy starting in 27th. Lawson Peel, who starts from 19th. So they certainly have to work their way through the field. You're right, Francisco. Tires are going to matter a lot in this race. We only have a couple of sets given to these drivers. Are we expecting sort of the enduring factor of trying to survive a race of attrition on strategy?
I think that could very well play a role in this race. It definitely is going to depend on how the cautions fall in this race. If we get races like Pocono where this goes green flag, I think you're going to try and see what's the most amount of times you can pit without really losing a lot of time because the tires matter that much. However, if we get cautions, it's going to depend how close to a pit stop window you are or how many laps ago you had pitted. All that is going to play a deciding factor in when to come down pit road. But in the end, we know that tires matter, but when you put them on matters just as much as putting them on at all.
And if we get a late race situation where tires will play a big role, we'll see a big surge to the front, maybe a defensive play to get to the checkered flag. Who knows, 134 laps from now, Luke Knupp and Colin Forrester bring us to the green, and there's one car around already on the front straightaway. That is Tony Kivitt in the number 76, who got spun before we could even get to the first corner. He picks it up, gathers it together. We are going to stay green, but already the hecticness taking place before we even complete lap number 1. Colin Forrester taking the race lead. Luke Knupp fighting back on the bottom.
This track has been notorious for wheel spin, Kenneth, that it can be extremely bad, and it caught out Tony Kivitt there. Unfortunate start for him, but to lead lap 1, Colin Forrester on the outside is going to nose in front of Luke Knupp. He's got a teammate behind him, and AJ Green, and Jesse Freeze has moved up into the top 5 position.
And the 45 is going to stay down there. AJ Green going to give the help to his number 99 teammate on the back straightaway. Jesse Freeze going to hold out right behind them, and so will the driver of the 98, Brandon Hawken. We'll talk about him over tonight's race. One of the new drivers making his debut here at Atlanta Motor Speedway, but so far, so good. For the 99 of Forrester, holds on to the inside, takes over the race lead. AJ Green gonna hold out to the top. Look at the single file line of cars there, Francisco, all the way at the bottom. Now Luke Knupp taking it 3 wide through the middle, but has to back out.
He looked for a second, possibly thought about going to the middle in 1 and 2, but he's going to tuck down to the bottom, and we'll see just how it works out for him. There's a lot of grip to be found at that white line on the bottom of the racetrack, Kenneth. We've seen Kevin Harvick run that line historically around here, and with good reason. If you get your left sides on that paint and you stay around there in the corner, it saves tires, and it's also a lot of grip.
Nobody taking that line so far. Right now, it looks like nobody's willing to take the risk. AJ Green on the top side powers through over his teammate. Third new race leader before we can even get to the end of lap number 4. AJ Green going to take control. How about Brandon Hawken sliding into third? The rookie striped number 98 Toyota Supra finding his way through. Luke Knupp already on the back fall here, Francisco. Down a couple of spots since the drop of the green flag. Could that be the possibility of saving tires? We talked about, of course, how important that is, and over the course of the season, how important holding on to your rubber is over the year and over the races that certainly take long, 2.5 hours at max. But for Knupp here, a little bit on the fall, a bit of a plummet through the top 5.
And we'll just have to see where he stands, because right now, Kenneth, it is lap 5 of the race. It's still very early days, but we'll see if this run goes long enough where he'll be on lap 25. And you can already see in the back of the field, Kenneth, a lot of cars are sliding off corner exits. That just goes to show how much the grip goes away. We've only been 5 laps into this race, but lap time's already just over half a second off, almost a second off.
Did you watch the top 3? All Toyotas. Green, Forrester, now Brandon Hawken, who would take the aggressive approach into turn 1. Find the inside here on Forrester Challenge for a second. But we talk, of course, about the difficulty of racing here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Here's a great look at the mid-pack perspective from Lawson Peel as he surges right through the top 10 after starting in 19th tonight. And for Peel, we know he definitely knows how to get to the front at these 1.5-mile races. You could easily argue that he should have won the race at Las Vegas Motor Speedway had it not been for the pit road speeding penalty he got in that race to put him, funnily enough, 19th, where he started tonight's race from Atlanta. He gets to the outside of Trevor Haley, and already Lawson Peel not wasting any time. It's also showing you on that gyro cam how tough it is to race around Atlanta, holding on to the throttle, holding on to the steering input, just making sure this Xfinity Series car stays planted, even on lap number 7.
And on the opposite end of that spectrum, Kenneth, Ethan Fonseca started up around the 13th spot. He's dropped all the way down to 22nd. It has not been the start for the driver of the 43, losing multiple positions. You see him a little bit further down there. He is struggling right now for grip. See him right there. He's just ahead of the 71 of Curtis Kelly. Got past Ryan Pandiccio just a moment ago. And you see right there, he's already lost 9 spots in less of that many number of laps, Kenneth. So it's been a struggle for the 43.
And on the other end, his teammate, the 45 of Luke Knupp, stays inside the top 5, although he's lost those spots since starting this race at the very front. Fight for the race lead here between the two teammates. Forrester on the inside, Green holding up on the top. Here for turn 1, Brandon Hawken, we saw him going on the inside for position number 2. Not going to get it, running the very top. And how about Daniel Michel breaking his way into 4th? He goes right behind this group, single file on the back straightaway. But let's talk a little more about the new update offered today. This morning as Brandon Hawken goes inside for second place and probably could attack at your race leader out of turn 4. This new 2024 Season 1 update, considered by many as mostly a software mechanical update, has really nothing to do with content, even though there was really just 2 new pieces of content out. One of them, the Audi RS, the new GT3 car for Audi, and of course Slinger Speedway famous short track that's now put onto the sim. But a mechanical part, software part of iRacing's development for this Season 1 build for 2024 is the oval refresh, Francisco. And we saw iRacing developers a couple of months ago talk about a dirt racing refresh, and they certainly have implemented that. Dirt oval is now different from what it was a couple of months ago. Now they translated it over to the oval side, and part of this update that was offered this morning was offering the ability for track surface grip levels to change with temperature, with how many cars are running on the racetrack, and the lines that these cars are running. So we get to see the full brevity of it in this 134 lap race, as opposed to, and maybe some others that will take a couple of months, other leagues that will take a couple of months to get to it. This league right immediately on the gun, testing out this new feature.
But it also could be in a beta phase, Kenneth. We know how these features work every once in a while, and it might not be in its finished form. It might not work the way they want it to. We have no way of knowing whether that's the case or not. That's what's so unique about us running on the same day it's been released. So there's still room for potential improvements. They're going to listen to some feedback as the week goes on, as the weekend approaches. And if there's any corrections that have to be made, iRacing will get on that usually in a week or two, and they'll release any patches accordingly. But right now, Kenneth, you see guys are running different lines. It's still early in the run, so it's tough to tell what it's doing to the tires, especially since we don't see the data. If we had insider information as to how it's going on and what the differences are, we'll see if we can ask somebody that and give us that kind of report. But I think what we'll see is on lap 30 of this run, if a lot of cars go up to that outside lane or something, we could see a big difference there. As look at the run, Alashar gets on the bottom, slides his way through the back straightaway to try and make the move on Eric Schaefer.
Working under the 3 car, who we talked about as one of the most dominant drivers of the season, sliding up in front of the 3. Schaefer goes for the slide job into turn 4, will cross over to the inside. Will make that pass complete, so he defends top 15 position right behind his teammate Brandon Banks in the number 54. Now, Alashire, we talked about him in the point standings conversation as being so far 29 points out of being considered for the top 14 that will make the postseason here in the 4-Wide Racing TJ's Team Series. And after that win at Daytona, Francisco, it certainly felt like that's when the season turned around. At the beginning, in the first couple of races, he really went through the struggle. Many times he would get taken out through crashes or would just not have the luck nor the pace to keep up with the rest of the drivers at the front. Alashire, since that win at Daytona, has somewhat turned it around and getting all that momentum that he said certainly would help him for the rest of the calendar year. Seems to be working, and Alashire is in P16 right now after starting in 20th, +4.
It absolutely would help, Kenneth, because what we've talked about all season is the changes made to the playoff format in terms of how you even get in. That win does not guarantee him a playoff spot. He has to go out there, make the minimum number of starts, and also have enough points to be in the top 14. Without that, he doesn't get in. So it's not just worrying about winning a race. He has to go out there and get those points. And right now, as it sits, he does not have those points. But if he's able to keep this momentum up, he might just have a shot at battling for that top 14 spot.
And in our last race at Michigan, Alashire came home in 6th place. So to say that the Daytona win was a turnaround, certainly backed up by his stats and the way he's been able to run. Look at this 5-car pack at around top 5 position. We mentioned Daniel Michel slotting into 4th. Now he's on the outside, 3 wide. Kyle Benson in this as well. Jesse Priest in the middle. Bit of contact with Luke Knupp on the inside.
Minor contact with all 3, but that just goes to show how rough the track surface is. And look at the 38, looking to the very outside of Daniel Michaud. He's going to get there. He gives him the room. They're 3 wide on the back straightaway. What a move there by the 38 to jump on the outside of Daniel Michaud. It almost looked like the move he couldn't really make. But Kyle Benson, Kenneth, just able to put the car where he wants it. But look at Luke Knupp, able to clear Michaud off the corner. And Michaud gets into Benson. He's going to slide through the grass. And he's able to save it.
Well, he's thinking his lucky stars he didn't get wrecked by Kyle Benson on the back straightaway. Almost hooked him on the right rear, but he loses the spots as he slides through the grass. But this battle is certainly not done yet. Benson in the outside wall. Luke Knupp is going to stay ahead. Jesse Priest will single file out, and they will bring in Tristan Bailey, who will bring in Lawson Peel right behind him. So it looks like the fight for position certainly not done yet, as most of the field chases towards the inside of the racetrack in turns 3 and 4. A bit of a loose moment there out of the 35 of Tristan Bailey, who, Francisco, we haven't seen in a little while. We saw him last season, of course, with the next-gen cars. sporting TJ's team on the Murray Reedy Motorsports camp for a while, driving a Chevrolet. But his first appearance in Season 6 with the Xfinity Series cars, of course, sees the translation to the Ford Mustang that Murray Reedy Motorsports made for the season. And, of course, another beautiful decked-out paint scheme in the number 35 as he rolls in a 7th.
It's nice to have Tristan Bailey back, and if he's usually one you see at the super speedways help those Murray Reedy Motorsports guys, but he's out here at Atlanta Motor Speedway, the regular version, not the modern super speedway version, and he's trying to have himself a good run, and he's so far doing that, running inside the top 10.
So he'll follow Jesse Freese, who aims at an inside move on Kyle Benson. That's for 5th. Not going to be good enough. While Brandon Hawken faced a bit of challenges there from AJ Green. As Hawken runs the middle to the top, AJ Green looming down low. Now, as of lap number 20, this is where you'll find this oval refresh phase in full effect. You don't really see it that early on, but over the course of the race, track surface grip levels are supposed to change depending on line. We've seen a lot of drivers so far use the very bottom, 1 and 2, and in 3 and 4. You'll see these guys experiment a little more with what lanes give them the more grip. And maybe not at Atlanta, haven't been able to test that out at full effect 100%, but at a track like Dover, you can easily search up to the 2nd, even 3rd groove and be able to find a lot of speed as caution flag comes out for the first time tonight here at lap number 21. Big crash on the back straightaway. That's multiple Murray Reedy Motorsports cars involved. One of them Austin Reedy, the other Tyler Murray, and that is Scott Healy in the middle of the storm.
Well, this was not a good one for that team. They're gonna have a team meeting on that one. Not sure what happened here, Kenneth, but it looks like a pretty decent-sized incident. And we'll try and see what happened here. It looks like it was Murray that was ahead of everybody here. And we'll see what exactly happens off the corner. It looks like there's an issue with a car up in front. Not sure exactly what occurred there. It was Scott Healy that had the problem. And just goes straight up into the racetrack. And, of course, cars are rolling on corner exits. Doesn't really have anywhere to go. So there you see Healy. He's going through the corner. And all of a sudden, right around there, something happens. You see that something breaks. But it almost looks like a glitch but the car still manages to go straight up. So I'm not entirely sure what occurred there. We'll see if we can get an onboard to see if anything goes on with the wheel, whether something did actually break or whether it was a hardware issue and he couldn't see and perhaps just went straight upwards. Looks like that might have been the problem.
And you don't see it really in a big flow because the car just blinks in and out, and you see all the other drivers that get involved. Tyler Murray, there's Austin Reedy, Michael Newbrough, Brady Cox, who gets a ton of damage from this. And he was right behind the 64 of Healy and got the first brunt. So right here, Healy just comes up right in front of him, and nothing that Brady Cox could do in enough time to react, and he gets hit not once but twice, and then a 3rd time. There's Michael Newbrough hitting the inside wall. I believe we saw Craig Parks be able to get through that without any incident. We'll see if we can get an onboard look with the driver of the 17.
And they see the incident going on in front. He sees the smoke. He starts to brake, and right there you see he just barely misses the bumper, barely misses Newbrough, and they pile on behind him and he's able to keep going. And that number 17 machine is, you see AJ Green there. I believe they already completed pit stops here, Kenneth, and looks like AJ was able to take the lead off of pit road. And unfortunately, you were just talking about seeing the grooves change after about 20 laps. Yeah, now we have to wait maybe another 20 laps before we get to see the actual true effects of it.
You know, it looks like that was just another form of commentators jinxing the race. Yeah, because usually we say a driver's doing great. Usually we say, hey, there's been no cautions after a while. I guess now that I say a long run has gone through, caution comes out immediately. But that was a pretty substantial wreck, Francisco. A lot of heavy hits there for, of course, Michael Newbrough, Brady Cox, Scott Healy, who basically started the whole thing. I believe that might have been a hardware issue. We'll try and double check here, but it appears that car 64 suffered a mechanical issue, hardware issue of some sort that just removed all input on that Chevrolet Camaro and just forced the car just to stall in the middle of the race. There's Tyler Murray hitting pit road. Of course, Tony Kivitt, who got spun on the opening lap of the race. Looks like he's able to slot into the top 30 after being behind the 8 ball, it appears, up until lap number 24. Really cool thing here with Tony Kivitt, driver of the number 76, struck a 4-race deal with Stoney's Seafood House in Francisco. That's not just a random sponsor. It's not a fake one. It is a real location in Southern Maryland where Tony Kivitt is from. So great to see that the real businesses localized to Tony Kivitt's hometown, they're starting to show that love and support to the driver of the 76. And what a beautiful paint scheme. I mean, it was a shame to see that car go around before we even got the end of lap 1 and before we even got to turn 1. But good news is he's got no damage, and that Stoney's Seafood House Chevrolet gets to keep on trucking.
It's a nice paint scheme. It looks very nice, and if I'm ever in Maryland, I'll have to ask Tony to give me the location that he thinks is the best one. I'll have to try it out sometime. I'm not sure if it'll be Flanagan's though, Kenneth.
Yeah.
You know Flanagan's is really good.
I was about to say that. You literally read my mind. I was going to say that you were going to bring up Flanagan's in some sort of comparison somewhere if I brought up seafood. But
of course.
All right, well, it's up to Tony Kivitt to decide whether it's better than Flanagan. I'm not sure if he's ever had Flanagan.
Well, he's never tried it.
But,
so.
okay, if either one of you end up trying the other, I need a full review. I need a full battle to the death if you two have a differing opinion. We're ready to go green here on lap number 26 of 134. After a pretty solid green flag run, AJ Green leads the race out of the pits. Brandon Hawken, in his first race in the 4-wide racing TJ Steam Series, has put on a show, has led a couple of laps tonight. He'll settle inside of row number 1. Kyle Benson, Colin Forrester back in 3rd and 4th. Will occupy row number 2. Had a great battle with Benson and company around the top 5. Guys like Jesse Prees was in it, and they were ultimately shut out of the picture, but Benson with a nice pit stop at 14.7 puts him in this spot on the outside of row number 2, right behind the race leader. Into the restart zone, AJ Green goes. He leads the rest of the field through wheel spin, getting some of the drivers near the front. We're about 3 wide near the mid-pack. Hawken gonna stay on the inside for the lead.
Side by side through 1 and 2. This is where the 98 should have an advantage, being on the bottom of the racetrack. And he'll clear AJ Green right there, so he'll move up on corner exit. Green might have a run, but I don't think it'll be enough to make a move to the inside of turn 3. You see mostly single file behind your race leaders. You get side by side back around the 4th or 5th spot back there as some moves are being made. There you see that's Tristan Bailey making a move on the outside of Luke Knupp, almost striking the wall, but he's going to move up into the top 5 behind Benson.
And then all of a sudden, we saw 2 Murray Reedy Motorsports Mustangs get involved in the first incident on the back straightaway. Well, now we have 2 MRMS Ford Mustangs inside the top 5 with Benson and Bailey. Luke Knupp playing defense on 3 cars fighting behind him. How about TJ Bursk, who has gone his way from deep in this field to get up to the top 10. Same can be said for Lawson Peel. Again, just our testament to how fast TJ Bursk is every single week, working through the top 10 after the first caution. He's making his run on Luke Knupp. That'll be for 6th place if he can get it.
And the last time through turn 1, I'm not sure if it was in the screen or not, but he made an aggressive move to the inside of Lawson Peel, and Jesse Priest took him 3 wide and was able to get there, but get both of them off of the corner. So now he has the 45 in front of him, and we'll see what he does. But we'll go into turn 3 here. He's going to follow the 45 for the meantime. And I guess part of the changes did help the following ability, because a lot of cars are able to get right up to the rear bumper of the car in front of him. You see, he kind of loses the front end on corner exit there, so he's going to lose a little bit of time. Lawson Peel and Jesse Priest in a battle just behind those 2. But again, an excellent drive from TJ Bursk to make the moves to get up there in position. We've seen him do that before, and considering how much the track has changed between the start of the race and the end of that run, Kenneth, it doesn't surprise me he was able to make those moves. If it opens up the track the way it should, you absolutely can make those moves.
He's blistering fast at these 1.5-mile tracks. Last time we were at an intermediate, it was over at Charlotte. That's where TJ Bursk grabbed his 2nd race win of the season. We had a bit of a break between 1.5-mile tracks, and now here at Atlanta, it looks like car number 94 back to work, putting in this run so far inside the top 10. Here's a fight for P12. Adam Alashire, Jaden Porter. And it looks like the Skybox driver of Kevin D'Elia, teammate of Alashire, works to the outside. He'll get there for the moment. It looks like they're all single file out. Now, we mentioned Alashire's big win at Daytona. We couldn't cover it last time. We had a broadcast at Michigan International Speedway, but this is exactly what Adam Alashire thought on his race to the win and how he felt after getting the checkered flag at Daytona. Oh, and a big crash behind him. Never mind, we'll get to that later. Caution flag is out. Hard into the wall goes Wyatt Brackett. Him and Kevin D'Elia involved and stopped in turn 2. Oh, man. And what has happened here with Brackett and D'Elia?
It was a crash that happened just as we had stepped away from a second, Kenneth. It was right as you stepped away right here. There was contact with the 53 and the 10 right there, and hard into the wall goes Wyatt Brackett.
Such a huge hit for Brackett, and there for D'Elia, who was running right behind his teammate, following his tracks, and all of a sudden, make that contact. That's a huge wreckage to bring us our second yellow of the evening. Look at this one. On the inside goes Brackett. I think D'Elia just got a little too close there to the quarter panel. Wouldn't you say, Francisco? It looked like they were just very marginally close, and that bit of contact easily enough. And that angle is going to send the car right up into the wall.
Absolutely, and you're right with that, Kenneth. It looks like D'Elia just cruises up to the right rear, and when you get that close to the right rear of a car, it kind of pulls the car on the inside up the racetrack. The driver does not do that. That's just what happens with the air, and when you get contact like that, it unfortunately will send that car up the racetrack. You wish it wasn't that way, or you wish you could do something about it, but that's just not the case, and unfortunately for both of those guys, they have damaged race cars. Lance Hill was very lucky to miss that, as they were both coming back down the track after the hit to the outside wall. That's going to keep him alive in hopes of trying to edge out Michael Newbraw in the bracket challenge, which we haven't really touched upon, Kenneth. We're in the Elite 8 at this point. We have Lance Hill versus Michael Newbraw here. We have Craig Lautenschlager and Ryan Pandiccio, Ethan Fonseca, Christopher Bishop, Jesse Prees, and Brandon Banks are all battling to try and get to the Final Four race at Darlington. We're not participating at Watkins Glen next week, and then the championship at Kansas. So soon enough, we're going to reach the payday, and someone's going to win some cash prizes.
Yeah, we've really talked about it sparsely over the last couple of weeks, given the fact that obviously the races have been great, and we've also talked about the championship implications, drivers who are trying to get their way in points. But if you add a bit of money, you add a bit of an incentive to go out and race throughout the midway portion of the regular season, run as hard as you can can get a piece of the dollar bills, y'all, right? So looks like a good incentive for them, and we are crunching down on the final drivers in that big bracket challenge. Is there any matchup, Francisco, you're looking at in particular to watch for tonight?
That Prees and Banks battle looks pretty decent right there, Kenneth. Prees is running really good tonight, but Banks very consistent. Right now, I believe Prees is ahead of Brandon Banks, so if that does occur, that could be an upset there, and Jesse Prees could make the Final Four. That would be an impressive drive there from Prees to be able to get all the way up there. And of course, we've had some shock eliminations before. We had Lawson Peel eliminated at Michigan after that early crash, Kenneth. We've had Eric Schaefer eliminated at Daytona. A lot of big names have been knocked out of this tournament early on, and those that you would expect to be in this position, and unfortunately, they're not able to participate.
It all comes down to head-to-head, so it's race by race. If you finish better than the other, no matter what happens in that race, you're going to advance. So yeah, certainly surprising to see that two of the best drivers of the season, when we're talking about the overall championship, have not been able to advance in just a small big bracket challenge tournament. So interesting to see how it all develops from there. I'd agree with you there that Brandon Banks, Jesse Prees, that is certainly the run to watch for. Two Drinking Bros Racing teammates. We know how much in communication they are with each other, and in the previous round at Michigan, the four drivers who were battling in the respective bracket sector, CJ Munier was one of them in the 89. That's another Drinking Bros Racing driver. The only one not was the 4 of Trevor Haley, who got eliminated after taking a 2-tire call late in the race at Michigan and not having it pay off. We're ready for the run to green signal here from Atlanta. We'll cue lap number 36 of 134. Brandon Hawk in the race leader. Colin Forrester on his outside in row number 1. How about the stats here early for Brandon Hawk and Francisco? No surprise, I've seen his name on the iRacing service before. I know he's good at driving on these ovals. He's demonstrating it so far in this race. New member of Skybox Racing with the Nexus Esports colors on his Supra tonight. What's been the most impressive thing about his run in your eyes?
Well, he started just barely inside the top 10, and it did not take him many laps to move up through the field, Kenneth. And it could be easy to mistake that for maybe abusing the tires, but he was fast even on lap 20 of that run. So he's got some genuine pace in that race car, and he could be a contender for the win today. And we've seen drivers get wins in their first ever start. Just this season, we saw Luke Knupp do it, but many other drivers have done that as seasons gone on, including yours truly. But could he add his name to that list?
Definitely could. He'll roll the inside of row number 1. By the way, update we had in YouTube chat from Scott Healy did suffer a hardware failure, so nothing he can control there. That's why his car just stalled in the middle of 2, creating that caution out of the corner. Unfortunate for Scott Healy. Green flag back in the air here from Atlanta Motor Speedway. Brandon Hawken with a phenomenal start to surge ahead of the number 99 of Forrester, who has to play defense here on both AJ Green and Kyle Benson for turns 1 and 2.
That restart looked like typical Atlanta. Kenneth, the outside just did not go. There was a lot of wheel spin and a lot of separation, and now into the outside wall goes TJ Bursk. He's able to get off of it, and now there you see Tristan Bailey looking to the inside with Jesse Priest just behind those two. Kyle Benson now trying to see if he can mount the inside charge on the 48 of AJ Green, but Forster's going to shut the gap, and now they're all bounced on the outside of the 38.
Boy, TJ was walking on a tightrope there at the exit of turn 2, hit the outside wall, but Tristan Bailey was directly to the inside. If he swerved any more to the left, he would have gotten into that 35 and created another caution on the back straightaway, but we are still 2 by 2, and the 94 again grabs a bit of the outside wall, just going to give it a sniff now to the outside of the 38. Benson's going to hold on to it. They make door-to-door contact. They make it once, almost twice. They slide up the racetrack and almost into the 94. The 38 goes again. It's getting chippy here, fresh off the restart.
We've seen some close quarter racing, Kenneth, but for the most part, the cars have been able to give way a little bit, and they've been able to slide it out instead of just make some abrupt contact and go up the racetrack. So give them credit to what they're doing and their ability to save the race car, but also kudos to the sim on trying to always work on being able to make door-to-door racing and some contact racing happen.
And part of that comes into effect with the new damage model that got implemented just before we started this season of the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series. We saw it at full implement at Auto Club Speedway to kick off the season, and it's definitely helped to eliminate some of the phantom contact that can happen between drivers, and it certainly allows for closer racing between drivers on the racetrack, and just ensuring that if they do bounce off each other, it does not result in somewhat of a predetermined bit of damage. You do get it as you hit a car or you hit a wall or you hit anything, and so just minimal contact between drivers isn't really enough to do all that much harm. Here's a great battle developing just inside the top 15. This is starting with the 54 of Brandon Banks in that recent Chevrolet Camaro up top. He's playing defense on the rookie Stan Carnathan. And how about Curtis Kelly, Craig Lautenslager, and look at this fight that we did not expect to be this far back, Francisco. Luke Knupp and Eric Schaefer, 17th and 18th.
Yeah, this has not been the day for the top drivers in the point standings, because just behind Schaefer is the 43 of Ethan Fonseca, who's been there for most of the afternoon in the sim, and there you see now jumping to the outside of Schaefer. These guys have struggled today. Lawson Peel was able to make some moves, try to get inside the top 10. Look at Curtis Kelly with a little bit of contact with Craig Lautenslager. He's going to lose a little bit of time there. But the guys at the top of the standings, it's been a struggle today. It just goes to show that the conditions out there are not easy.
And also getting used to the new oval refresh. Schaefer and company did not have as much practice with it. And I saw drivers like Lance Hill take to the racetrack earlier this afternoon just to try to get some laps in, feel for this new oval refresh phase 1 implemented into the sim. But it appears a driver in Eric Schaefer that we thought was going to be a heavy hitter tonight over lap 42, not the case. Still trying to dip his toes into the water as Luke Knupp is starting to play deep diving here. He'll go to the outside on what appears to be Brandon Banks and Stan Carnathan. He'll try and get back into the top 10 after what was a severe drop back to the first stint of this race. Meanwhile, up front, Brandon Hawken continues to lead by half a second.
That was an important move, though, for Luke Knupp, because he learned something there. The way he jumped on the outside and all of a sudden in turn 2 he found momentum, it could be useful, and I think guys will try to look at that. I think in 1 and 2 you can use the outside a little bit more, but it has to be done right. You have to enter right at the wall and use the wall proximity to turn the race car, because yes, they could change the grip, they could do all that, but at the end of the day, with that wall proximity, if you can really wind it up really good, you can launch yourself down the back straightaway.
Of approaches his teammate, Jaden Porter. That Ally Chevrolet you see to your left. Ryan Pandicio up top on the right, driver for Skybox Racing. Certainly happy to see his teammate, Brandon Hawkin, do as well as he's doing. Both of them repping Nexus Esports as Stan Carnathan slaps the outside wall out of turn 4, bringing in Brandon Banks. This trio up here on the center of your screen going to fight for position number 11. But up is going to stay on the outside. He'll get to the quarter panel of his teammate. Try and make this move happen. He'll get it done, and Porter not going to give him that much resistance. So Canup slowly working his way through. We'll keep an eye on the 45, your pole sitter tonight, as he gets the inside of Ryan Pandicio. Fight for third, Colin Forster, TJ Burst into turn 1.
Side by side for position, AJ Green settled out in the second position, and Kyle Benson just behind these two. And you see, as the run goes on, the outside does start to gain a little bit more of grip, and you're able to defend better. What we don't know, because we haven't had a run long enough for it, is what the tire wear difference is between running the bottom and running up there. It doesn't appear to be too stark, but again, we haven't really had that long enough of a run to really know. We don't have that much time on the sim to determine if that's the case for every racetrack, because at the end of the day, this update released today, there's not much that we know about it in terms of what it's going to do, what to expect. We just have an idea based on text.
And also, too, you think about the limited practice you get as these drivers roll
Exactly.
into this race. I know that Tyler Murray and the admins decided it was fit to give these guys 2 hours of practice instead of the one that we usually get week in and week out. As Burst dives to the inside, he gets the position on a slide job attempt here on Colin Forster. Phenomenal racing for the last spot in the podium. But this update and the build for iRacing was supposed to come out yesterday. Yesterday afternoon, yesterday morning, iRacing was supposed to deploy this build, giving these drivers what will be probably an extra day of practice and getting themselves acclimated to the new climate of this oval refresh. But then you delay the update 24 hours, as iRacing did when they found an issue overnight. Then you have just a couple of hours, Francisco, for drivers to get some laps in. Even worse, a lot of these guys have school, have work during the middle of the day. On a Wednesday, they do not have the time as early throughout the day to get that time and practice in. Some do, but many do not. So that 2-hour practice session, their first try at this new oval refresh, which makes the questions certainly ballooning.
A lot of questions involving the 99 of Forrester off of turn 4. That last time there was a big slide for him. He slid all the way through turn 4, and he lost a lot of ground, and he was able to keep it under him. Kenneth, that just goes to show, again, it's very tricky out there. Look at how sideways he is and how long he's sideways for. Loses a lot of momentum, but he was able to keep a point in the right direction. That's a great driver there to be able to hang on to that.
At the 99 of Forrester, he was fighting on that inside lane on the 94 of TJ Bursk, and all of a sudden just get sideways. Part of racing here at Hotlanta. Was able to save it off the corner, but barely. We're going to see that effect might come into play as Forrester is getting absolutely swarmed by cars around him. Jesse Prees moves on the inside. Look at Luke Up, finally charging through. He'll go to the inside, 3 wide for position number 6. He'll go down there, the 45, already picking up grip late in this run.
Indeed trying to do his best, and he's been able to use multiple lines, whether it's the bottom or the top. I think he realized more or less what he needs to do in this run and to try and improve his spot, and he will gain those positions. He'll get ahead of Jesse Freeze, and it looks like he'll move up now almost into the top 5, as we do have a battle for the top spot, I believe.
Brandon Hawkin under fire by AJ Green, but that gap sits at 0.7 of a second. Colin Forrester is looking to cool down his tires after that almost spin at the exit of turn 4. He'll work behind Lawson Peel single file. He'll experiment a little more here with this Aaron's Dream Machine Toyota Supra. We'll keep an eye on the Florida native. Now behind him is the IC Ford Mustang of Trevor Haley, Francisco, who almost saw his first race win come by him at Michigan. Took a 2-tire call at the late caution with 2 laps to go, and on the opening attempt at overtime, it looked like he was going to hold on to it. Then the caution came out again, and then lost it ultimately to Eric Schaefer and Ethan Fonseca Moreno, who ultimately fought for the lead coming out of the final corner on the last lap. It was a big what if for Trevor Haley. We know certainly that he is a force to be reckoned with in the rookie class and in the championship, as he has settled nicely into 5th in standings just based on runs alone over the course of the season. But certainly that race at Michigan might haunt him a little more. Haley has been many times close to victories, has not gotten there yet. He's still knocking on the door and waiting for an answer.
There's been a lot of attention given to Luke Knupp and Ethan Fonseca, and rightfully so, Kenneth. They've been really good this season. But make no mistake about it, Trevor Haley's been just as good, sitting right behind them in the point standings, and he's doing an excellent job here today, once again, able to run up towards the front of the field, and that's kind of been what has been Haley's strength this season. He's not really up there leading all those laps and maybe not being the fastest car on the racetrack every single time, but he'll go out there and get you a top 5 finish, and that's what he's been able to do all these races, able to run 6th, able to run 5th, and if he's able to keep that up, he is safe for the playoffs and safe to try and win a championship, especially with the new format where consistency like that is going to matter.
Harping on that point, we've talked about it all season long. This new points format will reward getting good runs week in and week out. And for the 4, that cannot be more true as he dials up the inside here on Forrester. We'll go to the bottom. We'll see if that pass is made. Meanwhile, big battle here around the top 16. Talk about Daniel Michel, who at one point in this race stepped up to 4th. Well, he's back here, trapped in 16th place. Brandon Banks behind them, Ethan Fonseca Moreno, Eric Schaefer. Among those Chevrolets, all 4 of them, Francisco, who have struggled a bit over the 54 laps of this race. They have not been able to tune their cars to full song. And for here, it looks like they're going to slow down. Caution flag is out, and that's a crash right in front. And TJ Burst is involved.
Exactly. I meant to say TJ Burst, and I said Tristan Bailey on accident. I saw the white car, and immediately, and indeed, he tows it. So some big damage happened there, the 94 with AJ Green, it appears. So let's get a look here exactly what occurred. They were battling for position. TJ Burst had been moving up closer to the front of the field. He tries the slide job. He's been doing that on most drivers here tonight, and Luke Knupp came up right up on the scene there. You see him down there in the 4th spot. And looks like just barely some contact between Green and Bursk. And, oh my, hard contact with the outside wall for the 94. AJ Green doesn't look to have too much damage. You saw a couple cars sliding, making contact as they were going by. But here's an onboard look with TJ Burst, Kenneth. And Atlanta's front stretch, especially compared to most racetracks, you tend to slide a lot, even on the straightaway. And it looks like just enough of a contact to send them both into the outside wall. We saw Forrester and Haley go by there. You see them making some contact with Ryan Pandiscio as well, sliding through all that. I'm not sure they are too bad off, but TJ Burst with that toast is certainly not going to help this case.
Here's a look on board with Forrester in the 99, who went sideways trying to get away from all this. He hops on the brakes at the right time, but the car just steps out, and he barely skips through that. Ryan Pandiscio on the bottom, Trevor Haley right behind him. I'm not sure if it was the clouds, the stars on that Aaron's Dream Machine, but he got lucky on that one.
Well, the Aaron's Dream Machine definitely has some brown on it now after that.
Here's another look at it. Actually, shot from the rear by Trevor Haley. And Ryan Pandiscio on the back end of that. I don't know how any of those cars didn't get damaged. Looks like Forrester did, but just a little bit of a dent. Doesn't seem like it will affect that Toyota Supra all that much. We'll take another look at it here and then analyze this a little more here with the 94, Francisco, because on the quad oval on the inside, you don't necessarily see it as obvious. There's a bit of a berm. You see it kind of rises up. It's a different elevation than the rest of the quad oval that goes up to the outside wall. And if you get that with the left side tires, especially as you lose grip over a run, Francisco, it can just hook you to the left. Feels like that's what happened to the 94, got him incidentally into the 48.
Absolutely. It's just the car slides around a lot more when you wear the tires out here, and the more horsepower the car has, the more it does so. If you've driven the Gen 6 car that has high downforce, it doesn't really happen here. But if you've driven that same Gen 6 with the super low downforce and the high horsepower, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It gets very loose on there even at full throttles. There's moments in time where maybe you're better off not going full throttle, and probably just got enough wear in the tires to where it slid the car enough, and eventually they got into each other and created that contact. You see Daniel Michel on pit road, not really many takers, Kenneth. They did pit close to 20 laps ago, but it goes to show the tire sets that they have to try and get them to the end of the race.
Trying to use up what they can, but after the first round of pit stops early in the race, looks like everybody has come down for the second set. Brandon Hawken, still your race leader here from Atlanta. More on the other side with the 4-wide racing, TJ's Team Series, and the return race from Atlanta Motor Speedway here on the KBueno Racing Network. Welcome back to Atlanta Motor Speedway, your coverage of the 4-Wide Racing TJ's Team Series, race number 12. As Brandon Hawken and Luke Knupp will bring us back to the green flag, had our most recent caution involving the 94 of TJ Bursk, who went up from 25th to 2nd place before getting into AJ Green, both of them most likely out of tonight's race. Green flag back in the air. Brandon Hawken, who has dominated this race as a rookie driver in his debut, will lead him back to turn 1 by more than 0.2 of a second. Luke Knupp, who fell back early in this race from the pole, has an opportunity to get back in it on fresh tires. Kyle Benson fighting for it with 2nd place. Lawson Peel and Tristan Bailey making an effort here too by 2 into turn 3.
And another good restart for your race leader, just able to get out there and get the gap. Put the throttle down at the right time, and looks like Benson slides up and he's going to spin.
Benson into the grass. He'll be able to collect the Dude Wipes. Ford Mustang goes for a hop or 2 over the grass. And is going to be able to continue without any damage, but that is going to lose him a ton of time. He finally rejoins the track after getting through all of the quad over grass. And boy, the lawn keepers aren't going to be too happy about that. Kyle Benson getting a bit of the contact, and he goes sideways. We'll take a look at it.
It looked like he got tight off the corner and was starting to slide up and makes contact with the 45, and that's what sends him around, Kenneth. We saw it happen on a restart earlier, but he was able to hang on to that one, but this time, unfortunately, doesn't. You see, gets off that white line, drifts up just a little bit, and just slight contact with Luke. And I'm not sure if Lawson got into the back of him to kind of make him go around a little bit more, Kenneth, because it did look like all of a sudden it started to spin. So we're going to look here from the rear view of Kyle Benson. He got sideways, but I think he was able to save it. Possibly Peel slightly making contact with him. We'll see right here. No, Peel does not make contact with him. The car just goes around after the contact with the 45.
And there's the 38 on an island. He's got Michael Newbraw right behind him. But for now, Benson sits in 28th position. This is the worst case scenario. He's going to need a caution flag if he wants to get back up to competition and up to snuff with everybody ahead of him. And it seems like they are fighting mostly for 2nd on back. Here's a look at Tristan Bailey, who gets into the inside position on Luke Knupp in the 45. Highest run we've seen Tristan Bailey have all night long. He's going to get trapped down there. The 45 intellectually makes that move to pressure him, Francisco. Easy move you can make here at Atlanta. Run that middle line, make the driver on the inside work harder for their money.
I think Luke is trying to hold on the short run because he clearly has some long run pace in that car. If he's able to hold on to track position and get a long run, I think he believes that he has a shot to get up there and challenge for the race lead. He just has to kind of suffer through this right now and trying to save some tire.
And for Bailey, slotting in between Knupp's number 45 and Lawson Peel's number 12. And for Peel, came home 33rd in the last race of the season at Michigan just a couple of weeks ago, and it was absolutely heartbreaking for Peel because he had really nothing to do with the incident ahead of him. It was Tyler Murray getting turned by Jacob Locklear on the back straightaway, and as the 36 came down the track, Peel washed to the left down, just trying to get away from it. Unfortunately, right into the path of the 36, who was spinning, and then the 12 made head-on contact with Murray's Ford Mustang, took him immediately out of contention. He did rejoin the track after getting lengthy repairs, but it did take him a while to get back on, and by that moment, he was already multiple laps down, not really able to get back on lead lap position, hence the huge gap between himself and Eric Schaefer. As here's Tristan Bailey still on the bottom, gets a good run out of turn 2, cannot really complete the pass here into turn 3. 45 is going to hold strong on the outside, and Lawson Peel getting a chance to get back into the top 3. Francisco, this would be a big race for him, especially after what happened on the Irish Hills.
Yeah, he definitely wants to try and do a better job this time out because he had to sit on that for about an additional 3 weeks, Kenneth. He sat on that result, just couldn't do anything about it, and after 3 weeks with the 2 off weeks, and of course this race here now, he has a chance to try and do something about it, to try and make up for it and get back on the right track. You see Tristan Bailey trying to make that move on the inside, slides up, almost gets into the 45, but now Lawson Peel has a chance at the outside to try and make a move.
So Bailey's 2 attempts at getting to the bottom of Luke Knupp, unsuccessful. Now Peel's attempt to go on the outside might work here into turns 1 and 2. Still a gap back, 1.1 seconds to Brandon Hawken, who has been unanswered by anyone in this field. And Peel, highest run he's had tonight too, 2nd place. Lawson Peel, after starting in 19th position, great run for the ex-Chevrolet Camaro. We know how good he is at these 1.5-mile tracks. And how about the run for Ethan Fonseca Moreno, who was oh so close to the victory last time we raced at Michigan. Francisco got pushed up the track by Eric Schaefer on the last lap in the last corner to the checkered flag. Almost got another win on the calendar year. Could not do it in tough fashion. And after struggling for the first 50-odd laps of the race, on lap number 69, Moreno has a nice entry into the top 10.
And a car sliding down to the inside, further back, not quite sure who that is. It looks like that's the 13 of Greg Lautenslugger, able to collect that one and keep it going in the right direction. Almost gets into the 89 right there. See what happened to him. It was racing Curtis Kelly, and looks like it's going to be the same deal as with Benson. Slides off the corner, but no, he actually gets a little bump from behind from Colin Forster, I believe that is. Excellent job to keep it off the inside wall, Kenneth. There's not much of room to be able to pull that one off, but he did. And going back to Ethan Fonseca, Kenneth, that's an important move he was making when we first got to him. He was passing Ryan Pandiccio. That's the head-to-head this week. That's one of the battles that we're looking at, the 43 versus the 63, and he just made the move to be ahead of Ryan Pandiccio for the first time all evening, just past the halfway point of the race. So Ethan Fonseca trying his best to try and come back in this battle.
Moreno, the driver out of San Jose, California, has easily cemented himself as one of the favorites for the year. Despite being a rookie, 2 race wins on the season, his first at Las Vegas under the lights, then his second came in a very fun to watch Bristol night showdown against Lawson Peel in the 12. And the 43 for the first time tonight enters the top 10 on that pass under Ryan Pandiccio. Now the 63 finds himself under fire still, but this time from a driver that has also been struggling tonight and has found his footing. Lance Hill, the driver out of Tennessee. I talked about him getting some practice laps earlier this afternoon. Him and I were in the same session with the same Xfinity Series cars, watching Lance Hill go around. I was terrible on the long run. I did not survive well, but Lance Hill was able to run quite well on that one. Lance Hill stepping into the top 10.
And in his respective battle with Michael Newbrock, Kenneth, it looks like it's going to be really good for Hill if he's able to hold on to his position, because Newbrock struggled tonight, was involved in one of the incidents, so a little bit of damage on the driver of the 6. So if Hill's able to keep his car clean tonight, it looks like he has a really good chance of advancing in his particular battle. And I'm sure Ethan wants to see him getting between that, because look at the 43 making another move. He's starting to put some positions together, gets past the 91 of Alishire there. So Ethan Fonseca, it's taken him all race, but he's slowly starting to grind his way back to the front of the field. He's trying to join his teammate up there, Luke Knupp, who's running up in the front as well. And now he's going to see if he can put a move on. And Jaden Porter's not too far behind too, so KBueno Racing slowly moving their way to the front.
And the 28, we've seen him just hang around the top 10 and 15 for a little while throughout tonight. And after Porter's season that really hasn't gone to plan, the defending champion, the driver out of Louisville, Kentucky, big fan of the Kentucky Wildcats. Just going to the inside here, trying to look on Ryan Pandiccio. You're right, Francisco. All of these drivers at BBR catching fire like the Hunger Games here at lap number 74. We are approaching, in fact, we basically are at the halfway mark of tonight's race. So far, no one able to fully challenge Brandon Hawken. Look at this gap, 9/10 of a second back to Lawson Peel, who does put a gap between himself and Tristan Bailey. Could this be the first real opportunity at a side-by-side battle for the lead since basically the beginning of this race? Because Brandon Hawken seems like ever since he has taken control in clean air, he has never looked back.
It's been a really good drive from the driver of the 98s this evening, Kenneth. And with Lawson Peel now moving up into the second spot, we'll see if he's able to put that gap down and start to shrink it and see if he can battle for the lead. We haven't seen Lawson try to get up there and battle quite yet, but we've seen the driver of the 12 do this many, many times throughout the season, and this season especially. It's not been his biggest strength going up against rookie drivers. We've seen him come up short on multiple occasions so far, the drivers capturing their first win. So history not on his side, but he certainly is closing the gap.
So here, 1 second full between those two last laps. 33.39 for Hawken, 33.45 for for the 12 of Lawson Peel. And mind you, both of them are running the middle lanes, it appears, on both sides of the racetrack. We mentioned the oval refresh, how it changes grip levels over the course of the run. Looks like here, for these top two, now 20 laps into their set of tires, they want to run the middle or a little higher than that. Just making sure they are able to properly rotate the car. And nobody really running the bottom other than the 45 of Luke Knupp, who stays down there in turns 3 and 4. Now, for everybody, they have certainly separated themselves. Now they're starting to cluster up. Remember, Ryan Pandiccio, he fell to Jaden Porter's attempted move for 10th. They're still side by side, but look up the road. 91 of Adam Alishire. There's the 1 of Lance Hill. And here comes the 28. Can't see him yet, but you can't see him now. He's on the inside, positioned for 9th.
Alishire were sliding up off the turn 2, and he had to check up, and that gave the Porter just the right enough of an opportunity to make a move to the bottom, and he absolutely took advantage of it. Gets the position on him, and it looks like Pandiccio will try to follow him as best as he can to make up that spot as well. They'll be side by side going back to turn 1. And you look a little bit further up the road, Lance Hill's clear as well. A lot of single file through most of the front of the field, Kenneth. We're already a good portion into this run. The tires wearing. It's still really hot out there, Kenneth. A lot of high track temperatures, guys still having to save tires and work the wheel. And you're seeing that as a byproduct. You're seeing a lot of loose race cars, guys going up the racetrack. Certainly a lot more movability than we normally see at this racetrack.
And you got a great look at it here on board with Jaden Porter, who sits into 9th. Now, looking forward to this battle with Lance Hill if he can catch up to him. Now, we mentioned the early struggles for Jaden Porter, representative by the statistics. Of course, 14th at Auto Club. Not the best finish, but of course not the worst either. And certainly in the mid-pack at 14th. His best finish up until Michigan came the way 8th place. And what was the race at Nashville Superspeedway, race where he picked up his first career win in this series, and then came 27th in a top 10 at Las Vegas, but then 22nd, 32nd, 22nd, 14th, and 23rd in the races up until Daytona. Then it took him to Michigan to get his top 3 finish. Almost had it late in the fight between Moreno and Eric Schaefer. Had it been one extra lap, Porter could have had a shot at the race win. So it's been a significant turnaround for the 28 of Jaden Porter, who's taken a little longer than usual to get up to snuff on racing these Xfinity Series cars. But the confidence is growing, and that's dangerous for a driver who is looking to lift the trophy for the 2nd straight time. By the way, Francisco, has never happened in this series.
Indeed has never happened in the series, Kenneth, but there can always be a first time for everything. As social media people would say, currently is suffering a championship hangover, but I don't think so. I think he's had some really good speed this season so far. Just things haven't really gone his way in terms of the lock and the cautions and all that. But I think Jaden Porter's still doing exactly what we've seen him do in the past. He was never really one to go out there and dominate the race, but he was always there solidly in the top 5 or 10, and I think he's still doing that and still proving he can do that. Just a lot of things didn't really go his way to get the results he's wanted. I think if he gets a steady diet of those results that where he's capable of running here in the second half of the season, I think he'll be fine.
So he runs inside the top 10. Watch the big battle here from around 16th. And this is Colin Forster leading a group of 3 behind him. AJ Green, who we did not expect to be continuing in this race after the crash with TJ Burst, but here he is in a rather clean Beef Toyota Supra. Stays in it. 17th place, Daniel Michel behind him, and then Patrick Thompson in the number 88. Meanwhile, Brandon Hawken continues to lead this race with 50 laps to go from Atlanta. Let's turn up the volume and crank it up here on the KBueno Racing Network. That was a fight for second you just witnessed, and won by Luke Knupp in the 45, who was able to get around the 12 of Lawson Peel, take hold of position number 2 here with 44 laps remaining from Hampton, Georgia. Now, Brandon Hawken continues to lead this race by just a little under a second, but Francisco, Luke Knupp, Ethan Fonseca Moreno, and Jaden Porter, 3 of the BBR cars here tonight, all of them ripping it here in the last couple of laps as this long run kicks in. Currently, lap 33 on it.
They're absolutely flying at this point in the run. So many cars are moving up to try and find grip towards the outside wall, but they're doing the best job at making lap time while doing so. There's a little pack of cars here. You see Alashire, Michel. Look how many guys are sliding on the straightaway, Kenneth. It goes to show how worn out these tires are. I expect green flag pit stops here in about 10 to 15 laps, and it could take them to the end of the, it should take them to the end of the race, I believe so. So if we do go green, pitch that right there does not make me want to continue with what I'm saying. So I'll just say, if this run continues as it currently is, we should expect pit stops soon.
Man, was really close there for Curtis Kelly. Way sideways there, right in front of Austin Reedy. And the other cars in it, Craig Parks in the 17. How about Cody Kinsey, a name we haven't called all night long? Tony Kimmett, who rebounded from a spin on lap number 1. He has moved his way up into 18th. Here the Stoney's Seafood House Chevrolet making some moves here. Adam Alashire right in front. And this battle only continues. Alashire right into the wall and all over the place. Yeah, Francisco, I'm not sure if we can even say anything about this race until this pack fully settles. It is looking really chaotic out here. As here's the 34 of Austin Reedy on board look with the Speedy Cash Mustang.
And that move came out of nowhere. It didn't really look like he was going to do much there in 3 and 4, but he just jumps on the outside of Michel and just finds grip. And he's able to put the throttle down and get to the outside, and you'll see he'll try to do it also here to the 91 of Alashire. He's going to get right to the quarter panel, and contact is made. Alashire into the wall.
Alashire right into the barriers, and here comes Austin Reedy on the inside. Michel trying to find his space and get settled again. He was loose out of the corner too. Craig Parks underneath Curtis Kelly, and the struggle is starting to come up for those who have worn out their Goodyear Eagles. And speak of wearing the Goodyear Eagles, it looks like Hawkins has reached his cliff. Here comes Luke Knupp, fighting there within 0.2 of a second on lap 94.
The 45 has really saved his tires really good, and it's starting to show in this part of the run now. He's closed the gap in, and now he has to try and run a different line to your race leader to gain the gap and try to see if he can make a move, whether it's the inside or the outside. The chess team starts. And
the 45 has been on the majority, running the bottom of the racetrack, as there's lap car Michael Newbraw in the way. But here the 45
rather, get a run here.
Goes up to the top, looks for the outside safer barrier, run out of the 24 degrees of banking, Luke Knupp to the inside for the lead.
And a good arc going into 3. He's going to miss the bottom. So the 98 is going to look to the outside wall, but he should clear him off the corner right here. He's going to slide up in front of him and before turn 1 as well, because now he can run the outside as a defense against the 98, and he should keep the top spot. So good move there by Luke Knupp.
First time that we've really seen Brandon Hawken in any sort of trouble and in any sort of fight for the lead. He's been in command for most of tonight, whether it be the restarts or the long green flag runs, but it looks like he has finally been defeated. Luke Knupp, the pole sitter, back to the point here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Runs the top, like you said, Francisco. Solid strategy to put that 98 in dirty air. Him, Ethan Fonseca Moreno, and Jaden Porter have spent a large part of that run going to the bottom. They've been warming up that very inside lane, and now, Francisco, is their ability to run up top and get a bit of nice movement out of the corners and just experiment with what they have, especially now that the 45 is in clean air and Hawken is fighting that race car.
He's losing a little bit of grip compared to the 45 for sure, but if you look in these corners, Kenneth, it definitely compared to the start of the race, that outside lane looks a little bit darker, doesn't it? It looks like that groove is kind of worn in a little bit, and now that's why you see many guys running it right now and able to make lap time doing so. There you see Jaden Porter trying to make a move on Tristan Bailey to gain another spot in this race, or at least try to protect one. Ethan Fonseca just barely up ahead. You see him a little bit further up the road running that outside as well. And these guys are all trying to get into the top 5 just before the green flag pit stop cycle begins. And how about Jesse Freeze, Kenneth? In the midst of this whole run, he's running 4th right now. So a really good job by the driver to 0 to try and beat the 54 Banks in his bracket challenge, and he's doing an excellent job at that.
It's the exact same place where Preece started this race, as he's going to hop on the binders and head for pit road. Him and Brandon Hawken are coming in. Former race leader, the 98, heading in for his first stop in a very long time here, a lap number 99. And Francisco, this should get the field to the end of this race. We are within 40 laps to go from Atlanta. Hawken enters his pit stall. So does Jesse Preece. First batch of stops for the leaders.
I think if you're some of the guys like Luke Knupp, Jaden Porter, and Ethan, I think they might wait just a little bit. Not too many laps, but they'll wait just a little bit because they have the long run advantage. They can double down on it if they choose to, whilst also protecting themselves against a potential caution during this pit window, as Lawson Peel now hits pit road.
So he comes in from second place. Ethan Fonseca Moreno will take over second spot. Luke Knupp will continue to lead, and we'll eye in on just how long they will stay out. But mind you, Francisco, we are at a 1.5-mile track. Last time we were at one was at Las Vegas. Where did we end up there? Strategy race. Who won that fight? Ethan Fonseca Moreno with his given strategy. Ethan here is going to stay out at the exit of turn 4. And there's Hawken looking to unlap himself on fresh tires. But Luke Knupp, who took the race lead a couple of moments ago, is in for his service.
And the 98 should end up back in front of the 45. There was a 2-lap difference there. So I fully expect Hawkins to resume the race lead. But we'll see just how good of a stop the 45 has and where he blends back in, because that'll play a role in terms of how quickly can he mount a challenge once again. We saw the 98 fast on short and medium runs, the 45 fast on long runs, on super long runs. We'll see just how long it'll take. He'll have about 34 or so laps to try and get by him. I don't think he'll need all of it if this stays green, but certainly trying to see when, as Forrester very aggressive, trying to gain as much time on the pit road. And there you see, I believe now Luke Knupp is exiting the pit, so let's see where he blends relative to your former race leader, and he is behind. There you see Ethan Fonseca, who's yet to pit. There's Lawson Peel, so the 45 stays ahead of the 12. That's a crucial decision there. And there you see the 43 now making his move to go down into the pit lane. He's going to slide, and he's going to enter pit road way too fast, Kenneth. He's going to lock it down, slide through. That is most certainly going to be a pit road penalty.
Yeah, there's no way that is not a pit road speeding penalty for driver number 43. Came in a little too hot. Will enter his pit stall regardless. And it looks like he gets it right on the money. The 28 of Jaden Porter will come in. Tristan Bailey right in front. And so the strategy for the 43 might just unravel in the worst way possible, and he might be taken out of contention for the race win. Here's Patrick Thompson assuming the race lead. He'll hop on the brakes. He'll slowly enter pit road without a problem. Daniel Michel is next behind him. He enters the apron as well. Jeff No, the third car in line. And this should cycle out to Brandon Hawken, who for now has the net race lead by 3.3 seconds here with 31 laps to go.
But also remember, Luke Knupp has 2-lap pressure tires and has proven to be faster on the long run. So we'll see exactly how long it takes for the 45 to close in the gap here, Kenneth. And after 100 laps, let's take a look and see just how different our track conditions are to what the start of the race was. It was about 80 degrees or so air temperature, 129 at the track. And there you see just a little bit lower in 77 degrees air, but the track is down to 116. Still very hot. But that 13 degrees difference, it makes a huge difference out on the racetrack. You can feel that.
When it gets cooler, you can sense the grip levels coming up. But, of course, with this oval refresh, you know that the different lanes will offer you different results coming out of the corner. Also, just depending on how you drive them will take effect in your race. But cooler track temperature as the day has progressed in sim is certainly good news for the drivers. And this is going to be even better news for guys like Luke Knupp, who was performing well on a long run as the track was cooling down from 129 degrees. And if that trend continues, the 45 might just be able to take over. He has not been able to get through this 3.3 second deficit to your race leader Brandon Hawken just yet. Will take him a little bit of time, but there is, of course, 29 laps to go here from Atlanta. We have stepped into the longest green flag run of the night, Francisco. We had some early yellows, but that has since been thrown out of the window. Brandon Hawken leading this race. It's sort of similar to what happened in Michigan, where we had 2 early cautions. All of a sudden, green flag strategy race up until the very end. I don't want to jinx it, because 2 laps ago there was a caution in Michigan a couple weeks ago. At 106 now here at Atlanta. Hopefully we don't see the same and we see a strategy run to the end.
I'm going to remember this when it's lap 133 and the caution comes out. I'm just letting you know now.
Oh, Lord. Well, I will take the full impact if it does happen. As here's Tony Kibbett stepping into the top 10 for the first time tonight. Great run here, Francisco, out of the 76, despite the early challenge, getting taken out on a spin before we even got to turn 1 on the opening lap. And Kibbett, his resiliency is paying off tenfold, now with a position to get really good points after tonight's race.
A solid job by the driver of the 76. Certainly probably wasn't thinking that this is where he'd be running at the end of lap 1, but a really good recovery and a good job to get back into the fight, to stay in it, and he could salvage a good day at the end of it all. And, you know, going back to the pit road penalty by the 43, who's currently a lap down, Kenneth, not only does it take away any chance he has at the win, that'll probably also decide that battle in the bracket, because that puts Ryan Pandiccio now in the favorable position to advance. Ryan Pandiccio struggles in the second half of the race. He's running 15th, but Ethan Fonseca is down in the mid-20s and a lap down in this race. So Ryan Pandiccio, as long as he's able to keep it clean between now and the checkered flag, if nothing happens, could advance in this bracket into the final 4.
And that was a 56-second stop for the number 43 of Ethan Fonseca Moreno. It just shows you how much a pit road speeding penalty at this juncture of the race will hurt. As here's a bigger look at the 45 and the 12. Their gap sits at around half a second. This is for P2 on the racetrack as Luke Canup tries to chip into what is a 2.9 second advantage for Brandon Hawken, race leader in the number 98. But could this be a big obstacle, Francisco, for the 45? Better than Peel on the long run, but for now, it's a 1 lap difference on tires between these two. It might be a hard-fought position. Position number 2 will be in just a couple of laps if the 12 can get there.
We'll just have to see. We did see the 45 on the long run be the faster car than both Peel and Hawkins, and it took him a long time to get to that point. Not super long, but long enough, and I think that's what he's hoping on. I think he's taking it really easy at this point in the run, knowing he has the numbers advantage, but he's going to try and do his very best to be there right at the very end and capitalize in the closing moments of this race.
Here's Cody Kinsey, currently running inside the top 20, 19th as he runs against CJ Munier. Just wanted to highlight the car number 2 tonight. Haven't seen him throughout most of this race, but certainly has put on a clean one and has kept it consistently throughout. But you see the drivers around him. Kyle Benson, 16.4 second stop. He has dropped to 21st. Remember that spin into the grass that basically took him out of contention for the most part. It has certainly affected him long term. Same with Daniel Michel, who's dropped off throughout this race. And then you see the 43 of Ethan Fonseca Moreno trapped in number 25th position as here comes Benson to the inside of Munier in the 89. Just hard hits for all of these drivers in different ways. And unfortunately, it will probably tell the tale to the end of the race.
It will potentially, as we are closing in on 20 laps to go. When you think about when it happened to Benson, it happened just on the restart, the most recent restart we've had. So unfortunate timing that our longest run of the evening occurs right now when the troubles happen to him. And that's just kind of been the way it's gone for Benson for the most part this season. You hate to see it for him, but unfortunately there's nothing he can do about it at this moment in time. Just hope that a caution could come out so he can get a reset and try to see if he can put some sort of a fight. Canup now is just over 2 seconds off your race leader, so now he's starting to close in the gap with 20 laps to go. He has enough time, Kenneth. He has the time. He has the tires to do it. The question is, how much does he pace himself? Because I think he'll get there. I think he has plenty of time to get there, and I think he has the capabilities of doing so. It's just when does he get there, and how quickly is he able to dispatch the 98?
And just needs to make sure as well that he does not wear out those Goodyear Eagles quick enough to give Hawken a chance to respond. Last thing you want is to get a big race lead by taking it away from Hawken, and then Hawken just slowly reeling this 45 back in and making it a tough fight for the race win. We're inside 20 laps to go, so looking up probably thinking about his pace, how hard he's pushing his Supra, and of course the rate that he is climbing to P1. Last lap for Hawken, a 33.1, for Canup, a 32.8. So of course the difference at around 3/10, 2/10 of a second, give or take. Knupp is faster by a long shot with the fresh tires. It's all about Francisco, how he can manage it, especially here at Atlanta, where this track beats you up if you make a mistake.
It will, and it can do it in an instant. If he makes a mistake and gets into the outside wall, that could make or break the difference because it'll start affecting the aerodynamics of the race car. And you don't really want to do that all too many times at an aero-sensitive track like Atlanta. There you see Brandon Banks. He's running in the 6th position right now, kind of doing an excellent job. He's really recovered nicely in this race. But the unfortunate part for him is Jesse Priest has done just that little bit better, and he's running in the 4th spot. So for the bracket challenge, just not enough for Brandon Banks at this moment in time.
And look at the Drinkin' Bros Racing lineup as it stands. Lawson Peel in 3rd, Jesse Priest in 4th, Eric Schaefer, who you're riding on board with, inside the top 5, and Brandon Banks right behind in 6th place. Just insane how DBR just continues to rise to the top. Despite the challenges that we saw Jesse, Eric, and Lawson overcome throughout this race. Peel started deep in the field. He had to work his way up. Eric Schaefer had to move his way through after what was sort of a topsy-turvy start of the race. Brandon Banks also the same. Jesse Priest dealt with a lot of traffic around him for most of the night. All of these DBR drivers faced some sort of obstacle. They've gotten around it swimmingly, all of them in great position to continue a solid points day. And for Eric Schaefer, most importantly, after a tough start, this would easily continue his stretch atop the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series standings heading into Watkins Glen and the All-Star break at North Wilkesboro.
And the gap continues to close in the top spot, down to just over 1 second now. Luke Knupp continuing to close the gap with 16 laps to go in this race. If he is going to get there, he's going to probably get there just under 10 laps to go in the race. How much does the 98 fight him for this win? Because the gap now exactly at 1 second. Luke Knupp making big moves right now to try and win this race.
And Luke Knupp looking to be the 4th driver with 2 wins in Season 6 of this series. He will look to become the 2nd rookie with 2 wins. His teammate, Ethan Fonseca Moreno, already picked that up after winning at Bristol just a couple of weeks ago. And for Knupp, many times where we definitely said he was a favorite driver to go for the race win. And much like a couple of others we've talked about this season, like Trevor Haley, close, but usually no cigar. Phoenix, that big shunt where it appeared that the 45 was the best car all race long. Then entered the picture TJ Bursk. But here, fast forward to Atlanta Motor Speedway, Luke Knupp is eyeing in on the race leader, Brandon Hawken. 0.6 of a second separate the 2 rookies with 14 to go.
And Luke Knupp is now starting to work the outside in, so he's doing exactly what he did in the previous run, starts using the outside as the line to make up the ground, and he's able to keep momentum wound up in doing so. He's doing it on both ends of the racetrack, definitely more in 1 and 2. He's able to do it in both ends of the racetrack. There you see the gap between 1 and 2. The 98 running just a little bit lower in 1 and 2. We'll see what he does this time when he goes to 1 and 2. Does he run the outside to take it away from Luke Knupp, or does he run it on? And he goes to the outside, so that forces Luke to run the bottom to get away from the dirty air just a little bit. And you see him still close the gap. He's running the shorter distance, has slightly fresher tires, but of course it just forces him to do something different to stay on his toes. We'll see here in 3 and 4 what happens. And it looks like the 98 will move just a little bit lower, and Luke responds by going even lower.
And the top shot of both the 98 and the 45 as Hawken will come across the start-finish line, and his time is running out. This time it'll be 12 laps to go from Atlanta. Here's the 45, looking underneath into clean air. He gets to run out of turn 2. Hawken gonna play defense. It's not gonna be an attempted pass this time by, but only time will tell for Luke Knupp, who's got the shot.
He's going to make his move into 1 and 2. I think he's trying to set it up at this point in the corner. You see he's going to close right into the back bumper as they come off of turn 4. He's going to be side by side. He's going to have a nose to the inside, so make the move here in 1 and 2. What do you do if you're the 98?
Hawken playing defense up top. He's going to force the 45's hand into turn 1. He's going to stay up there for as long as he can to get the run out of turn 2, but the tires seem to be too strong. On the inside, we are still door-to-door for the lead.
Luke Knupp is able to hang on pretty nicely, though, on the bottom. We'll see how many laps can he do this for. Looks like the 98's going to drive up. The 45's going to drive up with him. neither war is going to get too big of an advantage off of 4. They stay side by side at the line. Luke Knupp will be the leader with 10 laps to go. Does he get clear in 1 and 2? Will he drive it deep into the corner? He's going to stay relatively close to the 98 on the outside. He's going to try and turn away in the middle of the corner. He's going to slide up as best as he can. He was barely clear, and he slides up. The 98 is going to try to cross him over, but can't quite do so. A very tight move for Luke Knupp to go for the lead. Looks like Hawkins is going to try and dive one back to the bottom. Doesn't have the grip to do so. He slides in 3 and 4. A big slide for him. Give the lead to Luke Knupp. What a battle these two put on.
What a masterclass. Luke Knupp being able to get around Brandon Hawken, and Hawken playing as much defense as he could, held on to it for about a lap and a half, but unfortunately gives way to the blue and pink number 45, who is looking at his second win of the season if he can hold on for the next 9 or so laps, now 8.5. And for the 45, who has been strong for this second half of the race under the long runs, it's been his bread and butter, and as he holds the middle lane, gap now to Hawken at 0.3 tenths of a second here. 8 laps to go.
And it's starting to grow. I think if you're Luke Knupp at this point, it's not necessarily about growing the gap. It's making sure it doesn't shrink, and he has the capabilities of doing so. He has the fresher tires. He's obviously got the better car right now, so I think he's going to try and make sure the gap stays the same and ensures that he makes no mistakes and is able to pull off this win. We do also know that with 7 laps to go in this race, he's thinking, I want to get to the white flag as quick as possible. I do not want a caution flag to take any chance away of winning this race away from me.
Memories of Michigan International Speedway, where Patrick Thompson looked like he was going to get his first career win. Then a caution came out right in front of him with 2 laps to go. Knupp is praying to the racing gods that the same does not happen here tonight and force him into a green-white checkered scenario. While Hawken is going to stay within range at around 4 tenths of a second. His tires are reaching the cliff, and the 45's advantage on rubber is going to pay off as he runs the 3rd lane here. Will approach 6 laps to go. And Francisco, how much of a dodge bullet was that for Knupp to get around Hawken as quickly as he could? Because tire difference is not that large, and you could just imagine that Knupp and Hawken, if they stayed side by side long enough, they'd even out.
I don't know if it had enough laps to even out Kenneth, but it certainly would have made life a lot harder for Luke Knupp than it needed to be. We saw him make that move relatively quick. The 98 put up a decent fight, but there was not much more he can do given the circumstances that they were dealing with. So Luke Knupp did the moves that he had to, made them at the right time, and it ended up working out for him. And if he's able to keep this position between now and the checkered flag, he's going to look back at that move he made in 1 and 2 to slide up in front of Hawken right off the corner when it was barely clear. He's going to look back on that move, and that's going to be the winning move right there when he decided to take the outside lane away from him and force him to run the bottom because the 98 just did not have the grip for it.
Well, it will be 5 laps to go for Luke Knupp to hold on to this. Fight for the last spot inside the top 10. Colin Forrester in the 99, the 88 of Patrick Thompson. Settling right behind Trevor Haley in the number 4 car into 9th. Thompson not giving this one up quite yet. He'll dart to the inside in 3 and 4. Try to hug that white line at the bottom. We call the Harvick line here at Atlanta Motor Speedway, but no good here for Patrick Thompson on the inside of Forrester. Only other battle really around the racetrack, really other than this one, might just be Jaden Porter and Brandon Banks, separated by 3 tenths of a second as they'll come across to 4. Now 3 laps to go as the 45 will cross the start-finish line.
And what a comeback drive for Luke Knupp. Yes, he started on pole, Kenneth, but it was not straightforward for him at all. He immediately dropped back through the field, and at some points in this race was outside of the top 10, and it looked like it was going to be a struggle for him. But he was able to make a comeback late in this race, in this last 2 cycles, in the last 2 runs, this green flag run here. And he was able to put on a charge, drove through the field past some very fast cars, and was able to mount a charge to get up here to the race lead and ultimately pass the dominant rookie.
Well, look at the range here on the statistics sheet. He will get to 14 laps led, and he'll approach the final 3 miles, 2 laps to go from Atlanta. Lowest tonight, 27th, and the highest is where he sits right now and where he started. Luke Knupp with a phenomenal comeback, running the wall.
And that's been the line that worked for him. That's the line that led him to get into this position, Kenneth. He's been a masterful job of being able to put it to use tonight, definitely showing out that those updates that iRacing worked on have some truth to what it's doing. I'm not sure what it does to the wear, but at least grip wise, it certainly is showing to be the case. He's been able to work that outside lane, and off of turn 4, he takes the white flag with just under a 1 second lead over Hawken in the 98. And it's been a great drive for the KBueno Racing driver, who already has a win this season in the Music City, and he's going to try and do it once again in the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Kenneth, 3/4 of a mile away from the victory.
The 45 car of Luke Knupp struggled in the early portion of the race, dropped back, but he had the mindset in plan to get right back to the front, and the Peoria, Arizona native of Luke Knupp stomps back to victory lane here at Atlanta. Luke Knupp gets his second win of the season. What a drive by the 45. And you have to give credit to Brandon Hawken in his debut race, coming home second, leading a bunch of laps tonight. As he hands over the celebratory gesture there to the 45. Lawson Peel comes home in third place. But it is Luke Knupp, Francisco, who went through all of the trials and tribulations tonight to get back to the front on the long run strategy. And the 45 will get the taste of victory for the second time this season. How about the teammate celebrations too? Jaden Porter in the 28 there to help him. And as the 45 comes across to the start-finish line, Luke Knupp will celebrate as he will enter Paul's Setup Shop victory lane.
And this is also the team's 4th win of the season. Kenneth, KBueno Racing, 4 wins about halfway through the season. It's definitely been a breakout season for that team.
And Luke Knupp just becomes the 4th driver of the season to get 2 wins. He joins TJ Bursk, Lawson Peel, and of course his teammate at KBueno Racing, Ethan Fonseca Moreno. So the 45 celebrates, puts on the smoke show here at Atlanta. It was a grueling race for everyone involved, including this pole sitter here in Knupp. He blows the engine. He parks it right at the start-finish line as the 45 heads to victory lane for the second time this year. Let's get a look at the unofficial results here from Hampton, Georgia. It is the 45 of Luke Knupp, second race win of the season right before Watkins Glen. He beats Brandon Hawken by a margin of 1.2 seconds. Again, props to Brandon Hawken. His first race for Team Skybox, his first race in this series in general, and it pays off, leading a bunch of laps along the way. Lawson Peel, Season 4 champion, rebounds after the struggle that came his way at Michigan, getting involved in a crash early. He rebounds for a podium ending tonight. Jesse Prees, what a race for him, started 4th, and that's exactly where he comes home. Jesse Prees wins the fight in the Big Bracket Challenge to Brandon Banks. Eric Schaefer, despite somewhat slowing in the first portion of the race, not being able to really get on tap with everyone else, he picked up the pace later on, comes home in 5th. Jaden Porter completes a KBueno Racing, 2 drivers inside the top 10, Porter into 6th. 7th place to Brandon Banks, Lance Hill into 8th. Trevor Haley, the rookie, continues consistency into 9th. And how about Patrick Thompson getting away from Colin Forrester to get the last spot in the top 10?
And Tony Kivet will be in the 12th position, with Ryan Pandiccio winning his battle against Ethan Fonseca after that pit road penalty for him in the 13th spot. Tristan Bailey will finish in the 14th spot. AJ Green with a fantastic comeback after being involved in that incident with the 94 of TJ Bursk will finish in the top 15. Stan Carnathan stay with it all night to bring it home in 16th. Daniel Michel down in 17th. Benson, who spun on the last restart of the race, will finish in the 18th spot. Cody Kinsey will finish in 19th, with Adam Allenfire in the 91 rounding out your top 20.
21st goes to CJ Munier. Curtis Kelly is 22nd. Jeff Noe in the 14 for MTC Esports comes home in 23rd. Brandon Gillis in 24th is the first car 1 lap down. Austin Reedy behind him in 25th. 3 laps down is Craig Parks in the 17 is 26th. Craig Launslauger is going to be 27th. 28th to Ethan Fonseca Moreno, who had a top 10 brewing before, hitting the pit speed limits and getting over that, entering pit road. He's 28th. 29th to Michael Newbraw, 30 laps down. Tyler Murray brings in the top 30. Then Christopher Bishop, TJ Bursk, Wyatt Brackett, Kevin D'Elia, Scott Healy, and Brady Cox, a majority of them 32nd to last, all of them involved in incidents that took them out of the race. We'll have a chance to talk with our race winner tonight in the 45 of Luke Knupp, who comes back to victory lane after getting it in his first start at Nashville Superspeedway. And Luke, that probably is the best entrance you could ever ask for. Luke, let's talk about it. Atlanta Motor Speedway, this race, not sure if it was circled on your calendar or not, but regardless, from the pole, you were able to set the tone. You dropped back, but you picked your way up through strategy late in the race. How do you feel about executing all of that to get your second race win of the season?
Man, I have not ever won with like a comeback drive like that, I guess. And I started off on the pole and then spun my tires and kind of just fell back, and I was just trying to save, and I hadn't done any laps on the refresh, so I was kind of just messing around with that, and I never really messed around with it until late in the race, and was just hoping for a long run. And that first run we did like 15-20 laps, and I started cooking by the end of it, and then there's a caution, and then there's a caution like 10 laps later, and I took tires because I was like, screw it, we have an extra set. So and made my way all the way back up to second, and was like 4/10 faster in the field. And then another caution came out, and then I fell back, and I think that was the last caution of the race. And I knew I would strive on the long runs, and just kind of bided my time. And I saw those guys were pushing, and I started feeling the track out and trying different lines. And I noticed after about 30 laps during a run, the bottom went away, and then you kind of had to start running the middle and running the top. And I had a lot of fun, actually. The refresh definitely, I don't think helped with how we drive the cars, but it definitely made it more fun trying to find grip.
And I was about to go right into that question to parlay it for the oval refresh. A lot of drivers in this series, and you as well, didn't really have a lot of time to experiment with the refresh, especially after the build was delayed to today when it was supposed to come out last morning on Tuesday. For you, though, when was the part of the race where you were like, all right, let's see what's going on? Does it feel that much different? Just talk us through, the way raceability is with this race at Atlanta, and exactly how the oval refresh translates to this track.
Honestly, I think this track, helps it out a lot. This track was really hard to pass out before, and this track is definitely by far one of the best tracks on the sim. With, lacks a lot of grip. It's a hot track, and old surface, and the refresh made it a lot of fun. I was just riding the bottom the first 70 laps, and I went up to the top a few times, but it definitely didn't work. But I was about 20 laps into that first run after the last caution. I started feeling, I was like, did I burn my right front off, or is there just no grip on the bottom? And I talked to the BBR teammates, and Ethan and Jaden both said there's no grip on the bottom. So that's when I started searching around and figured out there's some more grips on the seams, and then I started seeing some shade in 1 and 2 up against the boards, and I started feeling that out. And it was just a fun race trying to track down Brandon, one of the best guys on the sim, and hold off Lawson is definitely hard on a brand new refresh for the tire model and everything. But I had a lot of fun, and looking forward to the rest of the season, seeing how some of the tracks play out with it.
Now, Luke, I don't necessarily want to bring up the memories of Phoenix, Arizona, your hometown track, the hometown race this season, where you dominated that race, looked like you had that win in the bag, and then all of a sudden, on the pit road cycle, you get into a crash, you get taken out of the race. How rewarding, though, in contrast to now, does it feel to be able to sort of rebound, get that first win after your first one came at Nashville earlier in the season?
It feels really good, but I've been searching for that second win ever since Phoenix, when that one slipped away, and then I had Vegas wrapped up, and that one slipped away. So it's just like I've been there every race, and same with Daytona a few weeks ago. I was in the catbird seat, and I just let that one slip away. So what I've been really trying to work on is just closing these races out, and that's what I'm happy about tonight. Closed it out really well. I was definitely a little nervous seeing he was 3 seconds ahead of me, but feels good to finally get that second win checked off.
Running the gauntlet since that race at Phoenix, and you finally get the win here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Luke, before we let you go to continue your celebrations, anybody in particular you want to thank for the run tonight?
Yeah, for sure. Just you guys in the booth, KBueno Racing Network, for all you guys do for the league. Some top-notch broadcasting, and appreciate you guys for all you guys do for KBueno Racing. Me, Jaden, and Ethan, sorry. And LKR, Impact, and everyone else. Thank you guys.
All right, Luke, much love. Always appreciative to talk to you. Thank you for the time. Congratulations on the win. We'll see you next Wednesday over at Watkins Glen.
Sure, guys. Thank you.
That's Luke Knupp in the 45, who grabs his second race win of the season and second career win as well. We'll head to second place, where it is the 98 of Brandon Hawken. Came up short, but Francisco Bacchial, what a statement for the Skybox Racing driver.
Well, Brandon, it was your first appearance out on the racetrack in this competition, but you definitely look like a veteran out there. Just kind of take us through what it was like driving out there in your first ever race.
Thank you. Yeah, man, that was a lot of fun. What a really great race that was. Yeah, it was. I was just I didn't know what to expect coming in, as I'm sure most of us didn't, and with the new update and everything, and yeah, I was just kind of, we were kind of flying by the seat of our pants there, just like trying different lines, see what was working throughout a run, and I was really surprised with how well it raced there tonight, and yeah, so man, I just I pushed maybe a little bit too hard there, but man, I'll take that as his first race here. Yeah, that was a fantastic race from everybody, and Luke, he was really good at saving his tires, and I saw once he dropped back there on that second to last fuel run, I was thinking like maybe, like, I don't know, like maybe I'll be able to just like run a little bit harder and then like maintain the gap throughout the rest of the run. But he came like right up behind me there and got the lead. And so I was thinking like, yeah, I'm just gonna lose some more time here if I stay out with him. So I was like, you know what, I'll come in and see what the difference on tires will be. And had a pretty big gap there coming out of the pits with the freshies, but yeah, throughout the last run, especially once got a little bit of wear on the tires, I think it was about, with like 20 laps to go, I think I had about a tenth to lose every lap, and then it just started increasing as it went on. And yeah, had a really good little battle there with them there, and yeah, I just couldn't hold him off. He did a really great job managing his stuff, and but yeah, just yeah, learned a lot tonight, I think, and yeah, I can't wait to do some more racing with the new oval updates, and yeah, well, man, that was a really fantastic race. So yeah, just great job from everybody, and I'm looking forward to the next one, like big time.
And can you kind of take us through what it was like trying to figure it out as far as what the characteristics were doing to the racetrack? Was it wearing a line a little bit more compared to what it used to, or what kind of was your thoughts as you were going through the race and checking the tire data? Because truthfully, we have no clue what it does.
Yeah, I'm still not quite sure myself, but I definitely noticed a decrease in the amount of wear that you get from running the high line, and that's one of the main things that I like really wanted before, that we didn't have before, was being able to run different lines without chewing up the tires. And I think like especially at a track like Atlanta, it's a really abrasive track, and it seemed like we could run pretty much anywhere we wanted without doing too much damage to the tires. There may have been a difference from one line to another, but it definitely wasn't like a night and day thing like we used to see. So I'm really happy about that. And yeah, the tires I think felt a little bit more rubbery. I haven't driven I haven't driven this car in a couple of years, but it's been like, yeah, the tires definitely felt like they felt like they were in the ground, but you couldn't overdrive them. You still had to save, but it was like you could get like pretty much on that limit. It didn't feel like you were driving like 60% or anything, and yeah, so you're pretty much going as fast as you could while trying to not like damage the tires too much. So yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I'm sure yeah, we'll all learn a lot more about how this track works, and yeah, from what I experienced tonight, that was some really great stuff, and it's definitely a jump in the right direction for iRacing for sure.
It's great insider information as we move forward and start to learn more about this update. But of course, before we let you go, Brandon, we'll give you the opportunity to give the shout out to everybody that helped make this possible in your debut race. Just give the shout outs to any team sponsors or people that helped make this together for you.
Oh yeah, just like to thank everybody at Four Wide, you guys in the booth. I've watched a few of your broadcasts before, and they were amazing. So yeah, great stuff. I'm looking forward to watching it, and yeah, just everybody at Four Wide for letting me in. And man, if like the racing's got to be like it was tonight. That was just a lot of fun. We had so much green flag runs, and that was yeah. I'm looking forward to the next one. I guess yeah. We have a couple tracks I'm really looking forward to, and yeah, I'm looking forward to coming back.
We appreciate the time you took to be with us here tonight, Brandon. We hope to see you out there on the racetrack again soon. Congrats on the really strong debut effort.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
So that's Brandon Hawken. What a race for Hawken in his debut event in the 4 Wide Series. Shows out, makes a statement to the rest of the field really fast all race long. We'll talk to the third place finisher. That, of course, is DBR's Lawson Peel. And Lawson, man, you had to go through the field in this one. It was a pretty far start for you with the green flag. A lot of chaos trying to get through traffic. What did it look like from your eyes?
Yeah, I didn't qualify very good, did I? But yeah, worked our way through there. Missed a couple of wrecks, and yeah, had an opportunity to see what I had there for that last long green flag stint. And yeah, just searching for grip, and it was a great race. I love it when they kind of run out green like that. So yeah, a great race. Gave it all I had, and certainly no complaints.
And talk about the way this race went in terms of the track and the car in relationship. We've talked a lot about this oval refresh phase 1 that came out today, really hyped by a lot of the guys in the oval community. And I know that many of the drivers, I'm not sure if you've had a lot of practice with it over today, but in your eyes from this race, what did you take away from the refresh? What did you feel behind the wheel? What kind of things did you take away from it?
Yeah, just a little bit of practice at Texas earlier today, not much. So this was really the first time I was diving into it. It didn't feel drastically different to me. I would say, it's not way different. It's still driving very similar, but there was a noticeable decrease in grip throughout the race. So that was interesting. So I don't know if like officials, like fixed officials that are shorter, if that's really going to kind of play a factor as much because the race isn't as long. But like that last run there was way different for me. I got just really tight, and just having to move around and try to find grip, which I thought that was great because when the cars aren't driving well, the racing is better, and you got to move around and search. And I think that's kind of what we had. I was searching. I think we all were. So I'm liking all of that. And love this track. Obviously, one of my favorite tracks, one of the better tracks. Lucky, or just enjoy every time we still get to race on this old surface here on the sim. So, yeah, I think it was all positive. I enjoyed it, and certainly going to have to continue to figure it out a little bit more. I think we're all just kind of figuring it out, but similar. But yeah, like I said, decrease in grip throughout the race. You could tell the track was, whatever they've added in the update to wear the track out, that was definitely coming into play there as we got down to the end.
Honestly, we'll be answering a lot of those questions as the season rolls through to next year. I'm excited for Dover. That's going to be a lot of fun. I've seen a lot of the oval refresh results at Dover. It's been a lot of fun to see the multiple lanes fully at play, especially with this car. But let's divert from the ovals a bit. We go to our next race, and that's Watkins Glen. Lawson, a thing or two about going to Watkins Glen and winning. You won it last time we were there with the next gen cars. So what are your thoughts on going back to upstate New York?
Oh yeah, love road course racing, love the Glen. A little bit of racing under my belt here in this car, but not near as much as the A car. Obviously, it's going to drive way different. It's just of the difference in concept of driving this car versus the next gen car. It's significant for me everywhere, but I think it's more significant for me at the road courses. It's just a totally different way you have to drive it. So, but be looking forward to that, and yeah, definitely looking forward to trying Dover out. I love Dover too, and that's a track I think that on iRacing we could see improvement in the multi-line racing there compared to what you see in real life. I think that's one of the tracks that it should be more spread out, and with the surface there, you can always visibly see it'd get blacker and see that rubber lay down. So I'll be interested to see, kind of like you're saying, with the update, if that's noticeable and if that really changes the handle. And so yeah, I think it's something we're all excited about, looking forward to. And just from what I've heard today, everybody seems to think it's an improvement and it's a good thing.
Hopefully we'll see that development over the rest of the season. Watkins Glen up next. Lawson, congratulations on the 3rd place finish here from Atlanta. Before we let you go, anybody you want to thank?
Yeah, thank you for doing the broadcast, Kenneth. Shout out to Luke for winning the race. He was very good tonight and certainly better. Didn't have anything for him. And Brandon Hawk, and I knew when he showed up tonight, he's going to be really tough to beat because he's really good. Know him well. He's a friend and teammate of mine at Nexus for Road to Pro and officials and FDF, another league that we run. So certainly knew he's really good and really fast, and if he keeps showing up, I'm sure he's gonna get some wins. So yeah, didn't have anything really for either one of those guys. I tried, but just couldn't find it. I was searching and struggling. But yeah, shout out to my Drinking Rose teammates and everybody that watched tonight. TJ's team for sponsoring the league, Tyler Murray for everything he does, and hopefully I didn't miss anybody.
All right, Lawson. Well, we certainly appreciate the time as always. On behalf of all of us at the KBueno Racing Network, congratulations on 3rd. Can't wait to see what you're cooking up at Watkins Glen next week.
Looking forward to it. See you there.
That's Lawson Peel, who comes home in 3rd here from Hampton, Georgia, and Atlanta Motor Speedway. So that does it for our interview segments of the night, looking up the winner here by 1.2 seconds over the number 89 of Brandon Hawk. And let's talk schedule as we move forward through the schedule. And once we had the 2-week break for Thanksgiving, we return tonight at Atlanta. We will head to Watkins Glen next week on our road course race of the season, our first of the year, as a matter of fact, before we go all-star racing at North Wilkesboro. First time that the series visits in this category, in this capacity. That'll be a lot of fun. We'll have an interesting format. We'll give you all the coverage ahead of the All-Star race. No run for points, just for money and just for a lot of fun. And then we return at Darlington in the brand new year. We have a couple more weeks of off time for Christmas break before we get into 2024. We resume on January 10th at the Lady in Black. So stay tuned for all of the coverage. All of those races you can find at 9 p.m. Eastern right here on the KBueno Racing Network YouTube channel. So that would do it for our coverage of the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series from Atlanta. Congratulations to Luke Knupp on his 2nd race win of the season. For Tyler Murray and everyone from the admin team and race council, for Charlie Byer, Keelan Belsha, and Francisco Bacallao at the KBueno Racing Network, my name is Kenneth Bueno. Thank you for watching our coverage from Atlanta. Congratulations to Luke Knupp. We head road course racing in upstate New York at Watkins Glen next Wednesday.